also some of our basic concepts about Earth surface environments. So in the very beginning of the module, we were speaking in lecture 2, I think, about this kind of connection between different processes that often would be found in nature is cascading process systems. And cascading process systems means there's a cascade. Cascade means like a waterfall. So it's from one surface or one kind of system, well, flow of energy or something else to another system or another part of a system. So that's why we can think here of like a waterfall of kind of energy or materials, so connection between different systems. And then we were speaking about here feedback loops. So feedback loops would be actually the direction of this kind of cascade. So to what extent different kind of forces or processes would reinforce each other. So we are speaking about positive and negative feedback loops. And so for positive, we said that there's a kind of process that would happen and later on it would reinforce itself. So there would be kind of a vicious circle that develops. And then we said, for example, if we have a surface that has relatively poor vegetation, so it's like a field, and we would have a very heavy rainfall, what could happen is that the surface would be more like eroded by the water, and like gullies, so kind of like channels, would be cut into the surface. So the water would be flowing down and eroding the surface, washing off some of the top layer here of like silt, so eroding the soil itself. And what would be later on a kind of positive feedback is that the rainfall, whenever it happens again, would be even further on, developing like this little valley on the surface. So more and more degradation of the land could happen once we had a rainfall that degraded the surface. Later on, this event itself means that the same process happening again and again would reinforce itself. That was then a positive feedback loop, and negative would be things like orogenesis, so perhaps thanks to like plate tectonics, the development of a mountain range. Here we can just think about like synclines and anticlines. But the process exactly for geomorphological point of view would mean change in height, so the elevation of the surface would be higher, the peaks would reach a higher altitude. And what this would mean is that, for example, here in this naturally occurring little valley, So syncline, we would have a valley developing for like water to pour down to the lower ground. And what would happen then is that due to one process, which is about the development of the land into mountain range or change in altitude in a positive way, would later on mean that there is more of erosion due to this exposition of this terrain to like rain and so on, and other forces, external forces. And then this would mean that later on, opposite to the original force, there would be more of like erosion of the land surface. And so the new process or the new landform would be kind of opposite to what the original force would have caused. So that's why we see that this is negative. There are processes that would be reinforced, that is erosion, that would work against the original process, which was about the development of mountains, orogenesis. So this is about cascading process systems and the two types of feedback loops as they were shown as examples in my PPT.